And the green curve here, I just put this on because it's an interesting, it's not a statistical correlation, but it's an interesting mapping, is that this is the growth of the iPhone, and this is where the iPhone 3G came out in the summer of 2008. And that enables people to tweet on the move. So I say it's not a statistical correlation. There are all sorts of other things you could put on this graph. But this would be something that a web science student would study. How did the technology help with the growth, enable the growth of Twitter? We are now moving into the next phase of the web of data, or the so-called semantic web. This is the web that's always been part of Tim's vision, where machines that can't read the documents we put up, every time you put data on the web at the moment, it appears in a document. In the web of data, we'll put data out there in a context, in a universal standard, we'll be able to link it up, and the machines will be able to interpret that data. So we'll have a world where you won't just, when you ask a question, you won't get a list of links back, you'll get an answer back. You know, what time is the next bus to Veria? I don't want the bus timetable for me to have to read it. I want the data out there that has the bus timetable data in it, so the machine can tell me that, can work out and tell me the answer. It will be a world where trust becomes even more important, because we won't necessarily know where the data's come from, where our answer's being produced. But it will be another revolution in our world, just as big, maybe, as the first web. But we can't predict what's going to happen. And this really, the discussion of this, was why we launched the Web Science Initiative in 2006. This is Tim. If you want to hear more about that, I haven't got time to go into it today. If you want to hear more about what Tim thinks the web of data is going to be, and what the impact's going to be, you can look at his video at the TED conference. And Nigel, Tim and I wrote this paper back in 2007, I think, or it might have been 2006, with the basic building blocks for the semantic web, the web of linked data. We have a new term, for the documents it was HTML and HTTP. For the web of data we have RDF, the Resource Description Framework, which is how we put this, another open standard. It's how we put the data out on the web. And we use universal resource identifiers. We're going even more abstract. We use identifiers rather than locations. So anything in the world, whether it's sensors, people, abstract concepts, bits, parcels that you're trying to ship around the world, will have one of these identifiers. The effect will be absolutely amazing. There are the RDF that we put out, the data is put out as triples, which is two objects connected by a description of why they're connected. That's all it is. And this shows the growth. And you think about the growth of the web, we're now looking at the growth of linked data. That was 2007, this is 2008, it's 2009, and we've now stopped counting because it's got so big. But it hasn't really impacted your lives yet. But you will begin to realise it's impacting your life in the next year or two. But you may not see it in the way you saw the first web, because you may access it initially through applications on your iPhone. For example, you know, when's the next bus to Veria? You'll have an application on your iPhone that will enable you to ask a question like that and get the answers back. Very interesting in this world as well is that the tipping point, what are the tipping points for the linked data world is likely to be the public sector rather than the commercial world, which is what it was in the first web. The Obama government, back March 2009, announced it was going to use the semantic web of linked data, to put data out about how it was spending the public money. As they put money in to try and bring the US out of recession, they're putting data out about where the money was going, how it was being spent, and what the effect was. The UK government, with our last Prime Minister, not the current one, he asked Tim and my colleague Nigel Shapbolt, that's them there with Gordon Brown, back in last year, to lead a similar initiative in the UK to take government data, public data. This is not personal data, this is public data, so transport, health, crime statistics, education statistics. The data that's collected by the government about our country and what we do in it, and how their money is spent, to put that out, make it available on the web in this new format. And they launched data.gov.uk in January 2010, and our mapping data, our survey data went out in April. And an example happened in the, I haven't got the slides here because I haven't really got time to show you everything, but for example, they put up the statistics, the data for bicycle accidents in London. Within 24 hours, somebody had written an application for the iPhone that told you where the black spots were for riding bicycles in London and gave you the ability to plan a route from one point to another, avoiding those black spots. Right. Within 24 hours of that data going up. Another type of data that went up was our ASBO data. This is our antisocial behaviour orders that to give kids who are antisocial in their behaviour rather than sending them to prison. And they put up the ASBO data, and within 48 hours somebody had written an application that showed where the most ASBOs were in the UK. So which were the worst, the black spots for ASBOs, which county, which towns, which counties had more of them. These are the sorts of information that will determine house prices in the future. Very interesting that this, what happens when the data is available. And then just this week, the US government upped the ante again and released more data on data.gov. Their data tends to be about, you can't read it, but it's things like US overseas loans and grants, what's happened to the money they spend overseas, information to do with earthquakes, they put up energy, environmental information, different type of information in a way. We were talking about this yesterday, but similar, using the semantic web to do it, and Jim Hendler from RPI has been one of the instigators of doing that in the US, inspired again by Tim. But we can't predict, I can't tell you exactly what this world's going to be like. And sitting in Tim's office in 2005, we were trying to predict then what the web of linked data was going to be like. And we realised we couldn't. We kept looking back at how the web had grown. And so to answer questions like, we want to share the data, but what's it going to mean? Can we actually develop a theory of evolution for the web? Can we develop a theory of tipping points? What are the implications for businesses going forward? What are the social and policy implications? What will we do with this data? What is Web 3 going to be like? What's Web 4 going to be like? There's going to be one. So we actually decided we needed a way of studying. We needed to develop a new discipline. And we couldn't think of anything to call it. We really didn't want to call it web something, and we really didn't want to call it a science, because it is an engineering subject as well. But we ended up calling it web science, and somehow that name stuck. And we launched WSRI in 2005. And as I said, we talk about the web being the elephant in the room. It's being transformational. It's something that we need to preserve and protect, and we need to understand what the future is going to bring. We need to identify opportunities and threats. So we felt there was nowhere to go and study this as a holistic system. It isn't just a technology. People put the content on the web, so it's all about people, as George said. It's about human behaviour, and it's about government and big companies, the policy and the regulations and the business framework that this operates in. It's an incredibly complicated, in fact it is a complex system, a complex socio-technical system. And we felt we needed to raise a flag and say, this is something so important, it's new, it grows faster than we can observe it, it's not a natural system, so it doesn't just follow the laws of biology, it's been engineered, but people make it grow by putting content on it, and governments, with their policy and regulations, constrain it. This is what we need to understand.